Hey guys, Sula here from MistyHilltops.com. Thanks for stopping by. I promised to make a video about how I use the Silhouette Cameo machine to print and cut. And today is the day that for one of my pages I needed to print some more intricate patterns that I don't want to fussy cut by hand, so I'm preparing it to be cut by the Silhouette machine. And so what you see here, this is just the page. These I will hand cut because I don't mind. These are straightforward cuts, but these cuts down here, they are too intricate for me, and I don't want to spend the time using my hand to cut it out. So I will have my Silhouette do the cutting. Normally in the software, there's a place where it will tell you what to do. There will be registration marks, and then you have to make sure that your settings are, or your print materials, so the papers or elements, whatever you want to print, is within that. But I want to use the whole page of an A4. I work with A4. I guess it would work the same with a letter size, but because I work with A4, I want to be able to use the whole page and not waste half of my page. Not half, but there is a big part of the page that you are not allowed to print anything on if you want to use the Silhouette print and cut function. So here's how I get by with this, and it works fantastic pretty much every single time I have done this, and I have lost count of how many times I have done this. So here is what I do. You see here, there are 3 little dots, and they can be any color. I just use a color that is easy on my printer. And so I just put 3 dots on my page. Now, if I have several designs, because somehow it's not, my machine is not fully or perfectly calibrated toward what's on my computer. So if I have a page with lots of designs, I will put some dots in a free space and a white space on top, in the middle, and at the bottom. But because all my designs are down here, all I need is somewhere in the center of this to have these 3 dots. And what I do is I take this page now, and here is my cutting mat. I put it on my cutting mat. I hope this is a newer mat and not used very much. So I don't like when they're like super fresh and too sticky. So I try to put it down, I guess, super sticky. So it is important to me that that I do put down my paper very well, because if the paper is not straight on this mat, then your cutting will have issues at some point. Okay, so I'm just looking here at this line and make sure it is a straight line. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect elsewhere, because I'm working with these 3 dots. So what I do is I put this now into my Silhouette. All right, so I switched to my computer now and do a screen recording, and here you see the design. Before you start printing, it's very important that you make sure that you have a bleed, and you were able to see that in the on the paper that I already prepared. It's sitting in the Silhouette right now, and around here you see there is a bleed, and you will see the bleed is here as well. And so it didn't print, these parts didn't print, the red lines here, but I want to make sure that I only print or cut the inner line. So I already went ahead and prepared this title word here. That was a little messy. But if you look at these 2 flowers here, you will see that there are 2 prominent red lines, and I don't want it to cut both of these lines. So whatever red line you see on here is a cut line, okay? So I went ahead, usually I have them grouped, but I already ungrouped them, and then I go to no cut. Okay, so I select the outer shape, and then I select no cut, and you will see, oh, it grabbed the wrong shape. So I have to pay attention that it is really the outer shape, not the inner shape. And let me see what this does. So now you see the outer outline has gone pale, and that's exactly what I'm going for. Okay, so I am going to regroup my flower here so that the moving around will be less troublesome. And then I do the same thing with this flower. I just show you again, in case you work with prints and cuts, it's one of the things that are common to show up. So again, I did the outline and I chose the no cut there. And here as well, I'm going ahead and grouping this. Now you see that here are my 3 dots that I prepared, and this is where I align my silhouette. So I have done this so many times. I know my machine pretty well and know how it works. So what I do is the following. I select the whole design here, the whole page basically. I select, and it's important that you do this with the entire page, with everything that's on the page, because you don't want to mess up your cut. So this is very important if you don't want your cuts to then go into the wrong parts of your paper there, okay? Then, because I know my machine and I know the cuts are usually a tiny step off, and so what I do is I use my arrow on my keyboard, the arrows on the keyboard, and I pull the whole design. Usually it works 2 down and 2 to the right. So see what I'm doing here is 1, it moves down a step, 2, and it moves to the right 2 steps. Okay, I did 2 steps, 2 down, 2 to the right. Now what I do is I deselect 1 dot. Okay, I gave myself 3 dots just so I can readjust, and then I do the risky thing. I hit the delete button so that the entire design goes away, and I guess I need to go back into my design here, and it's great that it's not yet funky. So now all I have is this little line here, this little dot here, and then I send it to my silhouette. Okay, so I'm checking that all my settings are correct. I think I already prepared that, and now I can see where exactly the machine will cut. Okay, so it's getting ready now. So here the machine is getting ready to cut, or has just cut that tiny little circle, and now I see, I go and check. Here is the cut, and so if you go close, you can see that it cut quite off from where I wanted it to cut, and so that's why I give myself 3 dots so I can wiggle around a little bit, and then once it's good, I can do this. So I will have to now move the design on the page again, and how I do this is now I go back again, so step backward, and usually you have to go a lot backward a lot with the silhouette. So here I'm back, I pick up this little dot again. Now I'm moving it 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 to the left. Okay, so it's different each time, but let's see. So now I deselect the middle dot. That's my second chance, and I could still actually, well, actually I can still, because it was so off from the first dot, I can just choose that dot again, because it barely touched that other dot. I deleted the whole thing you saw, and now I'm sending it back to the Silhouette to see where it goes. So Silhouette is getting ready, and I'm paying attention to these 3 dots right there, and we'll see where it cuts. So it should still work with the first dot because the first dot was quite off. Now let's get closer. And if I look closely, I can already see, it's probably barely possible to see, but it's already right in that dot, okay? In fact, it looks so good to me that I think I will leave it right here, okay? It looks almost square or center in that dot, which is exactly what I want it to be. So you see, it doesn't even take long to do, right? It takes longer for me now because I'm explaining this. Now here you see some funkiness showing up. That's obviously not going to be on the paper. So now what I do is, because I want to use just a trimmer or cut this by hand, and I don't need to cut the little dots. So these things I delete from my page, and then all I have left for cutting is this part. So now I can send it back to the Silhouette and it should do the cuts just perfect. Okay, so I'm still ensuring that nothing in my settings has changed. Trust me, I've been there, done that, where I went back and then there was a setting that was also changed. So now again, I send this to the Silhouette, and now it should start cutting exactly in the lines where I want it to cut. I still give myself a bleed space so that even if it's slightly off, especially when it gets to the bottom of the page, it does tend to go off. But I can already see, and now maybe you can see too, it is cutting beautifully exactly where I want it to cut. So once the cut is done, I will show you. My machine is set to a little slow because the paper will tear easily if I go too fast. So it's beautifully in the lines. I wonder what happens to the title there as well, to the alphabet, to the letters there. But I will come back and we will look at it later. Now, I finished the cut, and you can see it worked out exactly as I wanted and as I expected it. So you can see here the flowers, they cut perfectly within that bleed space, and I give myself usually a bleed space of about 0.12 centimeters, which is like a little more than a millimeter. So this is for the flowers, but I want you to look at the title. Now, I'm not sure if you can see here is the cut, and it's slightly off, but that's why I create a bleed so that even if it's slightly off, it doesn't really like nobody will really notice. But I want you to see when you get to the left side, the cut is actually perfect. It's exactly on the line of these last 2 or 3 letters. It's perfectly where it should cut. And so this is common, full disclosure, that the further I get to the bottom of the page and the further I get to the right corner, my machine, I don't know how your machine works, how your machine is aligned, but my machine then tends to be a little bit off. That's why I usually have the little dots somewhere to the bottom of the page if I have designs down here. At the top of the page, it usually works pretty well, but at the bottom of the page, it can get off a little more. But again, the cuts worked out perfectly on this side, and so I I realized that using these 3 dots is just a wonderful method. It doesn't take much extra time. It took longer to make this video and show you this, but in reality it takes just a few seconds each time until I have it adjusted and I have the perfect cuts. Let me show you here this alpha. It cut exactly, especially if you look here. If you look here, it cut exactly where it was supposed to cut. There's nothing showing from the actual design or shape that I wanted to cut. So this is how this works with the 3 dots. So anyways, this is how I print and cut. I've used this method for many years now. It works. I get beautiful cuts with my Silhouette, and I hope this was helpful for you. Consider giving this a thumbs up if you like this video. Consider subscribing. I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye.